Okay.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Friday Lab LinkedIn edition, LinkedIn Mastery. Today, we have the pleasure to have David Perry, Social Day, with us to help us, to guide us through the use of LinkedIn to make sure that everybody can. Hold on a minute. Ah, that everybody can leverage as much as we can LinkedIn to enhance our visibility, to make sure that we can show our best skills, to make sure that we can sell ourselves or maybe sell everything that we want in the best manner possible. So this event is organized as by myself as as a Toastmaster, as a Division F director for the District 61, and I organize this event to show you things that you may not be aware, and to show you that you can develop those skills uh, with Toastmasters as part of a Toastmaster membership. So if you have any questions about Toastmasters, if you want to learn more about this organization, what it can help you to achieve, just feel free to reach out to me, to send me an email. I will put the details in the comments on the YouTube comments for this video, and yeah. So without further ado, let's have the fun begin, and I will introduce you to the presenter. So hello everybody, hello David.
Hello,
So
Thomas.
thank you for being with us today. It's a real pleasure. We know. I mean, we know ourselves. We have worked together
Hmm.
with our company, and I think, I mean, I thought, and I still think that your expertise in the field of social media is very valuable, or could be very valuable the for our audience today. And I will leave you the floor to introduce yourself. I mean, to present yourself more in details, and I would like to invite the audience to ask your questions in the comments or in the chat, and we will make sure that David could answer either during this meeting today or later on. So, David, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Thomas. Welcome everyone. Today's training is called LinkedIn Mastery, Elevating Your Professional Presence. So that is what we will try to do. It's sort of a hybrid training presentation, a foot in sort of the basics of LinkedIn, but with the other foot in some of the more you could call them advanced, but some of the techniques and tips and tricks that I've used over the years to build my visibility, build my presence on LinkedIn. And as Thomas has mentioned, at the end of the presentation, if you have some questions, I'll be glad to answer them at that time. But feel free to reach out afterwards to connect with me on LinkedIn, and we can go over that. So here I am. I will not read this full description, bit of a bio, but basically know that for the last 20 some years, I have dabbled in social media. I think next year will be my 20th anniversary on LinkedIn. First half of that was used as a business in business development context and sales context, and I would leverage LinkedIn and Twitter at the time, X now, as tools to communicate and engage with my clients and prospects and so forth. Loved doing that so much that I started coaching some of my peers, some of the HR teams and comms teams at the firms that I was at, and eventually made the transition to full-time marketing consultant with a specificity on social media within the B2B industry. Uh, but the same sort of skill set that you're going to see today can be applied both for B2B and B2C, but our focus again today will be on LinkedIn. Some of my handles are listed here, so if you want to connect with me, please feel free to do so. So, what are we going to see today? What are our objectives? So, on today's agenda, we're going to take a look at LinkedIn basics review. So, we're just going to look at our profile. I'll go through my entire profile, highlighting some of the key components and some of the important aspects of the profile that you might not have either leveraged or turned on, and we'll see through those. We're going to then jump into personal branding and thought leadership. So, what's a personal brand and how do you become a thought leader? Next will be establishing your voice. That's going to be done through the content that you're going to share, curate, original content that you're going to find through your meanderings on the web, articles that you come across that you find insightful, interesting. You'll be sharing those. That's curating, or writing your own content, either on LinkedIn or elsewhere, that you can then share on LinkedIn. We're going to have a glimpse at what social selling is, and how it applies to LinkedIn and what constitutes social selling. We're not actually going to specifically jump into one of the platforms that LinkedIn offers, which is Sales Navigator. That's a whole different training, and there are hours of training available on the web on that through LinkedIn or other channels on YouTube. We'll then take a look at very quickly at the social selling index, which is sort of a gauge for you to understand where you are in terms of your proficiency at leveraging LinkedIn. Some of the engagements and analytics that come with the creator mode. We'll get into that and what the creator mode is shortly. And then open Q&A and discussion, and we will end it there. So let's jump into reviewing LinkedIn basics. So we're going to take a look at, again, a profile, profile photo, header, and all that good stuff. So on the right side is my profile, and you'll see it scrolled through the next few slides, and we're going to take a look at these, the items that are important to have on your LinkedIn profile. So first and foremost, having a profile photo and a banner, especially the photo, is very important. That's the way people recognize you. If you've got a very common name such as David Perry, then definitely having your photo there will speed up the process of you being recognized in the search results, and people clicking on your profile and reaching out either to follow you or to connect with you. Employment and education. So when you do list those further down on your profile, in the section here, you have the ability to either show or not show either of these two. So you can basically say, I want my company to show up, or just my education, or I want both to show up or none to show up. You've got the possibility to do that. I would encourage you to display them. And having those information in there is important, because if you've worked for the same company, but not at the same time, if you've gone to the same school, whenever somebody does a search for someone like yourself with skill sets that you have, if you have those common points, then you'll be higher in the search result for the users who's looking for someone with your skill set. So higher search results mean more chances of them reaching out to you. Headline. Now, the headline is often used as just your title, your role, basically within the organization that you're at. That's what by default LinkedIn will do, but it's a missed opportunity, because anyways, it's listed further down. Anyways, it comes up in your profile. If somebody does a search for, director of communications, that will pop up because it's on your profile. What you want to do with your headline is basically say to your audience, to the people that are looking for you, and remember, these are key. These words are searchable. So when somebody is searching for some key terms, you'll come up. You want to make sure that you've got something that resonates, that explains what you do, what's your value, how do you bring insight and bring value to your audience, your clients, your prospects, your colleagues. have that listed in there. So if you've noticed, there's a lot of terms there, employee advocacy, in my case, employer branding, content marketing. So if somebody's looking for someone with that skill set, boom, it's in my headline. Location and contact info. Location is important for your all-star profile. So is your photo, employment, and education. Followers and connections. So there's a difference. Numbers of followers could be way more than your connections. You can be connected with someone automatically. LinkedIn will make you follow them, but you can be connected and say, you know what, so and so is posting content that's not necessarily interesting for me, so I'm going to unfollow them. That's very unfortunate, and we absolutely want to avoid that. But those are two different numbers. Analytics. So you'll see here that I've got some interesting analytics that you may or may not have, and some of these come up with creator mode. So make sure that you turn on creator mode. It will give you um, a glimpse into some much valuable analytics. So if we continue scrolling down on our profile, you're going to have a button to manage your network. So this is where you're going to be able to see your connections, your followers, invitations that you've sent, invitations that you've received that you have yet to respond to. The feature or featured section is where you will want to feature your best content, whether that content is something that you've posted on your LinkedIn profile. So it could be a simple post, it could be a article, a long form article. It could be something that comes from your company's website. You've written a blog, an article, an insight piece. You are mentioned in a case study and you want to highlight that. You could have that added here. It could be a conference where you were a panelist, a link to the recording of your panel or your webinar or podcast. Any of those types of content can be featured here on that section of your profile. Think of it as your storefront to the content that you have either participated in or written. So these are all things that you can feature here. Next is the activity. So this is where people can see the activity that you've had on LinkedIn. So this could be, again, your posts, could be comments that you've made, reactions that you've had, articles and images and so forth. This is a great way, actually, if you're looking at someone else's profile to see what they're doing. So if you're looking at someone that you would like to start engaging with, they might be a good prospect, they might be a hiring manager. You want to go and see what type of content are they interacting with? What are they liking? What are they commenting on? Have you written that sort of content or that format of content? You're looking at someone's profile and they're liking and commenting on a lot of posts that include videos. Well, have you posted some videos? So these are all tidbits of information that you'll be able to see and to capture from there. You could also want to, go and see a peer, a competitor. What are they doing? What are they posting? Oh, they're posting these types of content, and funny customers are reacting to that sort of content. If you're not doing and publishing the sort of content your prospects and clients are, maybe you will, you would want to start doing that. Further down after our activity is the about section, more or less your bio or your summary. So this is where a lot of people sort of neglect to um, invest a bit of time and to write a little bio to present themselves as to who they are and what they've accomplished, what they've done, not just their responsibilities, but some of their accomplishments. This is where you want to list that. So in your about section, you want it to be original and interesting, and you want it to write it in your own voice. This isn't a bio. This isn't David did this and that here and there, and David does this. No, this is written in the first person. You want to use the I here. I've done this. You want it to be so that once I've read through this, I sort of have a glimpse as to who David is, what he's like, what's his personality. That needs to come through that summary. You want to keep it short, 1 to 2, 3 paragraphs. Now, if you look at what I've got right now, it is not short. So some rules sometimes are meant to be broken. So in this instance, I went a little bit longer than the 1 to 2 paragraphs. There's a listing in there of some of the accomplishments that I've had, the achievements that I've made. So maybe that doesn't count as one of those long paragraphs. Suffice to say that needs to reflect who you are without being too long, but neither too short, because I do want to have a glimpse of as to who you are. You will want to avoid buzzwords. Everybody is motivated at some point, hopefully on Mondays, maybe not, within the first hour, or, highly dedicated or overachieving. These are all words that, have over the years become meaningless because everybody and anybody can use them as they see fit. Instead of using buzzwords, what you want to do is use keywords. Again, what words would someone search for in the search bar, either in LinkedIn or on Google or Bing, or now maybe on ChatGPT or Gemini or those Gen AI search tools. What keywords would they be looking for if you want your profile to come up? What abilities, what skills, what experience have you had? Those are the keywords that you want to make sure that you've got somewhere in that summary and elsewhere on your profile. You might or might not want to provide some contact information, so maybe your email, other handles on social networks or on other social networks where you are present. Maybe you want to list that at the bottom of your About section. That section can be made public to anyone outside who's not even logged into LinkedIn or who's not connected to you. So use that wisely. And of course, you want to proofread. There's a link here to an article that was published by LinkedIn. So 14 LinkedIn profile summaries that we love. Funny enough, when I started doing these trainings and I had this link, it was 7 LinkedIn profile summaries that we love. And I just checked yesterday while making sure the link still worked, and they had updated it to 14 summaries. So you're getting more content for your money. Further down is the experience section. Before that, thank you, reminder, is top skills. So these are the top skills of all the skills that you'll have added to your profile. These are the top skills that you want to be known and recognized for. Next comes your experience. And sometimes these are, paid roles. This is a job where, you have a yearly earning, or maybe you're a freelancer or a consultant. But sometimes, these are guest lecturer, as I'm doing today, or as I've done at some of the universities here in Montreal. It doesn't have to be your, job where you're a salaried employee. It could be such occupations. And of course, under each of these roles, make sure to add skills that are specific to these roles. So whatever that is, make sure that you've got them listed under each of these. Skills are very important. Again, keywords, not buzzwords, but these are keywords that are very relevant to someone looking for someone with the skill sets that you have. Under your roles, you can actually also add media. So in this case here, I'm highlighting a webinar that was recorded where I was the guest. And so a YouTube video, you can go in here, add that, and it'll appear like that with the metadata. And people can click on it, and boom, it opens up, and they're able to view that webinar. Within a company, you do not want to be updating the same role. Make sure that you've got all your different roles listed. So if you came in as a intern, moved on into a coordinator position, and maybe then a junior project manager, senior project manager. Make sure that you list all of these, because what that does to someone looking from the outside is, okay, there's progression, there's mobility within the firm. If I'm looking to go and work for this company in this firm, I can see that there are opportunities for me to grow into my profession, to grow into my role. So when I see someone who's been a VP for the last 25 years, I'm probably guessing that that person hasn't been exactly in that role for that time. There's been a progression, and unfortunately, we've missed, that individual has missed listing that there. Education is important again for those searches. It's also important for your all-star profile. It's one of the 7 key components that you need to have filled in for LinkedIn to give you the stamp of approval as an all-star. And when you do that, you show up higher in the search results. Licenses and skills is another, so make sure that you list them when you're doing trainings and uh, and courses and certifications. They'll be listed there, and that's always great to have. And then last but not least, don't forget to mention your project. So if you've worked on a large project, deployment of a platform, an employee advocacy program, list them there, and you can actually add key contributors, whether within your organization or outside, maybe some of the vendors or some of your colleagues. When you do, though, do know that if you want to make sure that they are aware of that, they do not get tagged, and they do not get that little notification when that happens. I'm just going to take a sip of water. If there are any questions, Thomas, feel free to drop one in.
Yes, one of the question, actually, it is one of my question is what about the use of hashtags in the profile, and where to put them if it is something that we can consider?
I wouldn't necessarily use them because they're not hyperlinked, whereas they are within posts, and they are within articles as well. So the blog platform that we're going to get to, um, I I would use them maybe as keywords. I wouldn't use them as hashtag, because the concept of a hashtag is it's a hyperlink to every other piece of content that has that hashtag in it. So if it's posts, if it's tweets or X's, or Instagram, or even TikToks, like that works. But in the context of your profile, I wouldn't bother with putting them in. Um, it can be annoying. It can break the flow of someone reading through your profile. So I'd keep those for your posts and your articles.
Okay, thank you. No other questions so far.
Fantastic. So now let's jump into defining your unique personal brand. And here is the important word in that title is unique, because who wants to be like everybody else? You do not want to be the thousand, one of a thousand, or hundreds of thousands of individual that has that expertise. You want to be recognized for something specific, something that's unique to you, so that when I think of, project management, I think of so and so. When I think of a great UX uh, expert, I think of, so and so. That name comes to mind. I can see them. They stand out in a crowd because they've nurtured their uniqueness. There's a quote that I'm trying to remember here from one of the um, Jeopardy winners, champions, and I think it was, I can't remember the name of the champion, and maybe somebody will, but I think his quote was, "Embrace your weirdness." So it's a bit of that. Embrace your weirdness and embrace your uniqueness, and make that come through in anything and everything you do, in the comments that you do, in the posts that we do, and all of that. So where do you start? So just taking a step back here, often, quite often, I would hear, oh, well, LinkedIn is just an online resume. It's where I post my resume, and whenever I need a new job, I go, I clean it up, I dust it off, and I use it again, and then I forget about it. Well, not anymore, and it that hasn't been a resume only for quite some time because of all the content that's on the platform. And that content, that presence, your comments, your posts, and everything, that builds something. That builds your reputation. When you're not on LinkedIn, when you're off on vacation, you're sleeping, you're doing trainings, you're presenting to clients and whatnot, anybody can go back to your LinkedIn profile and through scrolling through the content that you've posted, interacted with, they will get an idea of, the sort of expertise you have, the approach, the tone, a bit of your personality should come through. That is your online reputation. That's what you're building with LinkedIn. And that becomes over time your personal branding. And what's personal branding is a conscious effort to build and influence perception and build authority within your industry, your field of expertise, to make sure that you are someone who is seen and perceived as credible within that field, and increase the influence that you have within your immediate uh, circle of influence, those first degree connections. But of course, those first degree connection, reacting, commenting, engaging, liking to your content, automatically spread that to their first degree connection, who might be second and third degree connection to you. So remember that anything that you do, anything that you like, builds that persona, builds that personal branding over time, and that influences how people perceive you, your expertise, you as a person, and how you approach whatever um, expertise that you have. And that's how, over time, you become recognized as a thought leader. But what is, thought leadership? And I think one of the best description of a thought leadership that I've seen is one from Amber Naslund, who I highly recommend that you follow on LinkedIn. She has a very honest and authentic way of communicating with her audience, her followers. And this is what she said. Being a thought leader isn't the goal; it's the result. It's the result of what you've done. It's so that every thought leader started as a nobody that no one ever heard of, that didn't have an audience of zero or an audience of one, you yourself, starting on your blog, starting posting content. That stuff comes with the willingness to show up first, to put into the community that then you're asking to take out. So make all the deposits up front, sort of paying it forward. Share knowledge, be generous, be effusive with how much you're willing to put in, and the results will come. But it has to go in that order. You don't call yourself a thought leader, you are identified, and it's the community that gives you that badge of honor as a thought leader. So Amber Naslin at LinkedIn. So have a look at her profile. And again, I highly recommend that you follow Amber. So a lot of that personal branding, a lot of that leadership will come from the content that you're going to be sharing. And that's how you're, paying it forward. That's how you're contributing with sharing insightful, interesting, useful, practical, informative content and putting your spin on it. What's your take? What's your insights? What did you find interesting about that content? What comes through? So that's really how you are going to do that. And so there's two ways on LinkedIn besides the commenting and the reaction. In terms of the content, there's two types of content. There's the curating content. So you're finding good content to share. It's an article on a specialty news site that you go to on a regular basis. It's an article on Harvard Business Review, Entrepreneur, or whatever site you go through in your daily, weekly uh, rituals online. Well, identify the content that's of interest to you and share that. These could be, third-party articles, videos, slide shares, quotes, charts, webinars. I mean, this is just 9 of the dozens and dozens of types of content that you could be curating for your followers, for your audience. Or it could be you publishing original content. These are articles on LinkedIn's Pulse or blog. I don't think they call it Pulse anymore, but more or less, LinkedIn has provided you with a free blogging platform, a blogging tool. You don't have to come up with WordPress and whatnot. You can start there. Eventually, if you do want to have your personal blog, that's another thing. But you've got this very easily at your fingertips within the LinkedIn interface. And these could be, original articles or articles that you've authored elsewhere and that you want to share here. It could be, lists and breakdowns. It could be, you've been to a conference, you announced it last week. In a post, you come back from the conference, you've got all these great ideas, like it just opened you up to a bunch of things that you want to explore. You write a little article, here are my highlights, and when it's a bit too long, this is where you would put that in a LinkedIn article. In both of these cases, you might be, faced with writer's block, going, okay, what do I post about? I don't know what to say. So when you've got those sort of doubts in your head, this is what you should be thinking and keeping in mind. You need to be posting content that will be relevant, informative, and useful to your network. As long as it's any of that, your audience will appreciate it. At first, you might not have a big audience. You've got a very small first degree network, but over time, bit by bit, step by step, you will be on your journey to creating a followership, a tribe of like-minded professionals that share your interest, as long as that content is relevant, informative, and useful. You always want to be providing value. You want to be providing value in the posts that you make, in the articles that you write, in the comments that you make. Having a comment that says interesting with an exclamation point, meh, it lacks. Why isn't interesting? What's thanks for sharing. Why are you thanking this person? What stood out to you in their post, in the article that they shared? Make sure that you provide that. Well, the same goes for a post that you will be making. So some of the questions that you may be asking yourself to keep in mind to make sure that you're writing good content is, what's important about the article that I'm either finding and sharing, somebody else's article, or the article that I'm writing? What's important about this article to my audience? Why should they care? They're going to spend a few minutes reading your post, well, maybe 30 seconds reading your post, maybe a few minutes, maybe 10 minutes reading your long form article. Well, there should be something in there that's worth their time. So make sure that it's relevant. And maybe it's, how is this impacting them? So if you're looking at an article that speaks about a technology, a new procedure, a different way of doing things, a way of implementing, diversity, equity, and inclusion, that's going to impact them. So, keep that in mind. Could be a new piece of legislature. We're banning TikTok. Rings a bell. We're, banning, we're in Italy, we're banning ChatGPT. No more ChatGPT. Well, that's going to have an impact on a lot of people and a lot of businesses. And so that's what you want to keep in mind when you're posting that. So now we're going to take a look at both posts, so the curation part of it, and sometimes it's original content in a much smaller form in those posts. Sometimes it's articles that you've seen and that you're resharing. Sometimes it's somebody else's post. So those are posts. And then next we're going to have a glimpse as to what articles are. I'm going to give you some bits and pieces, some tools and resources for visual elements that you can use without breaking any laws. So, copy-free or royalty-free imagery of high quality, and where to find those. And I've got them linked in this presentation. So, posts, curating content. So just through the act of curating good content, finding that content for your audience and making yourself, useful to them, it only takes a few minutes. You've read an article, you liked it, three things, two things, one thing popped into your head. Let me share that with with my audience. Here's an interesting article that discusses X, Y, and Z and how that it will impact A, B, C, and D. I'm apprehensive. I'm excited. I see some great applications for this new technology. What do you think? Little call to action at the end of your post, and boom, you've got something that will resonate with your audience, that will engage with them. So usually what you do is once you found the article, you will paste the URL, so that link, in the post at the top. And then once it gets embedded, you'll see it load up. You will have the ability to remove it. It'll stay embedded, but you won't have any URL. People will just click either on the image or the title, and they'll get to the end title. And then what you want to do is you want to write your insights, your opinion and ideas, like what stood out. Here are the 3 takeaways from this interesting case study, and so forth. And you want to name the author or authors, and you want to use the @ to tag them. Same for either the company that they work for or the news source. And then you want to use between 1 to 5 hashtags. You can use up to 10, but really 1 to 5 is sort of a magic number. And what that will do is that will link your post to all the other posts that have used that hashtag. And then one little trick that I don't think I mentioned below in my tips and tricks is once you've published your article, click on the first hashtag, scroll through the lists of posts that have used that hashtag, maybe like have a little read, and the ones that you find interesting and useful and good, react to them, maybe write a little comment. If you do that for 2 to 3 for each of the hashtags that you have, or if you don't have the time, do it for the 3 first hashtags and the first post on each of those hashtags. But that will basically get people to say, oh, David Perry just made an insightful comment on my post about this topic. Let's go see David Perry's profile. They go to their profile, they find my profile, they go to my list of posts, and they start interacting with the post, because of course we share common interests, because we wrote about the same topic. So some of the other tips: like and reply to every comment you receive. So you get a comment, reply to that. Thank them, add something, add some value to what they've said. You want to do that. Those posts at least once. Well, at least once a day. At most once a day. If you do share something, maybe something, and that has happened actually recently, that has happened where you do your post in the morning and then you come across something that's out of this world, and you need to reshare it, or to share it, post something about it. You can do that, but ideally it's 1 post per month, per day, at most. Otherwise, LinkedIn will see your posts as spamming. You want to use 3 to 5 hashtags. Again, 5 up to 10 without being impacted negatively. Those that don't use hashtags see less, 50% less impact, so 50% less impressions and reach. So that's important. And the position of the hashtags within your post have no impact. But I prefer, on the mechanics of your posts, but I prefer to have them at the bottom. That's just a personal preference. And then, the 4-to-1 ratio is if you want to help amplify the visibility and the notoriety of the company that you work for, make sure that that is just about 20-25% of your posts. If you're only constantly resharing or talking about your company, people will go, I love Dave, but Dave only talks about what I've already heard on the company page. I'm going to unfollow Dave and keep seeing the content that, company ABC that at which he works posts. So you want to avoid that by industry insights or your insights or whatnot. So now I'm going to show you some key examples, and then we're going to jump straight into articles. And I know that we've just hit the halfway mark, so thanks for the notice for that, Thomas. So here's a repost. So I mentioned sharing third-party articles, and that sort of mechanic is well understood, and with the tips and tricks that are here, you should be on your way to some successful curating. What I'm going to show you in the examples is other types of content or types of posts that you can do that are not necessarily a third-party article that you're curating and sharing with your audience. So here's a repost with my insight. So you'll see most of the time a lot of just plain blank, boring, maybe reposts without any context at the top. So when you do a repost, the impact that it will have increases dramatically if you add your own insights. So in this case, I clicked the repost button and I said repost with my thoughts, and it opened up with the post embedded and little text at the top, and I wrote my little thing, tagged Tribal Impact and Sarah and LinkedIn and so forth, and added my value to me sharing this post. Same for the next few examples. Different way of doing this sort of content. So here I am, and this actually was posted of all days. This was posted on a Saturday, and I just it was just an idea that sparked. So I was just having a nature walk, soaking in Mother Nature's blessings, and thought of a couple of things and put together an article in which I shared some my thoughts and some links, and shared that on a Saturday, and it did fairly well for a weekend post. Here's another one of a book I read and enjoy from one of the founders of an employee advocacy platform. So I shared that. Or maybe it's a poll. So sometimes you are able, you should be running some polls just to sort of gauge and have your audience participate. These are all different types of posts that you can quickly and easily do. You've been to an event, you took some photos, you want to share that with your audience. This was me in San Francisco. Or it could be, saying goodbye. So at the end of November, my position at WSP was abolished. I shared with that. I thanked everybody. It was a very positive message, and it got a lot of engagement because I had nurtured my followership and built a community of colleagues over the years. And that's a different type. It doesn't have necessarily to be always about your expertise and what you bring and that sort of thing. It could be also about your professional experience, your experience as a leader or working within an environment that's very diverse, and sharing those experiences. It could be about your mental health and mental health in general, as the post that I did earlier today. So if you want to go check that out and see a photo of um, my dog, you can do that. Now we're going to jump into LinkedIn articles. It's a much shorter version of or section, and then we're going to jump into analytics. So you've got your own blogging platform, as I said. You can write a full article, and then when you publish that article, automatically LinkedIn asks you to share a little post. So this is going to be a different piece of text. So here's the full article, and here's my post about it. So not the same thing. I had to, wiggle my gray matter to come up with something a little bit different, and position that. So like a kind of a summary or an essence of what the article was about. Put that in your post. Push that over. People see it, and then they can click on the link to get to your article. When you start to post articles, consistency will be key. What do I mean by that? I mean, you need to be doing it on a regular basis. If it's twice a year, well, you do it twice a year. Maybe you do it, like at the beginning in January, you do sort of a recap of the first half of the year, and then you do your next one the next January. Maybe it's every quarter or every 2 months. Whatever it is, stick to a consistent calendar and make sure that you publish at those intervals. So maybe you want to start, as I said, with 4 to 6 articles a year. These are long form. If you are, and here's the only mention of Gen AI in this presentation. If you are going to use Gen AI, please do not use it as the author slash writer of the full article. What you want to do is you want to write your article and then have it be leveraged as an editor to improve, polish, or maybe come up with ideas for you to write your article on. Hey, ChatGPT, I've written about this, and that. This is the audience. What other topics should I be looking into? It's going to give you a couple of topics. So if you do that, then your articles will sound authentic. They will come from you. Otherwise, everybody sounds the same. Everybody sounds like ChatGPT, and we've completely lost authenticity. So please, please, please use it as a tool and improve what you've written and not just simply ask it to write in your place. Um, Titles should neither be too long nor too short. Very helpful, Dave. Thank you. What I mean by that is they should be descriptive. They should give you enough of a tease to say, hey, I want to read this article. This seems interesting. Remember keywords? Well, they also play here. So think of the keywords that somebody would be looking for if they want to read something on the topic that you are writing. You want to split the article into sections, using either lines or quotes or images or graphs. You can use hyperlinks in your articles. You've got a lot, way more room to sort of build and wiggle your ideas in an article. And please, 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 please use royalty-free imagery. Do not Google, beautiful bridge, and then you take the first photo that you see on Google in the results. That might be, copyrighted imagery. So what you want to do instead is use one of these three sites. So either Pixabay, we're going to find some beautiful imagery, Pexels, or Unsplash. Any of these are free, royalty-free imagery of high quality, and they're, you'll find the image that you're looking for in there somewhere. If you do the right search, you will find what you are looking for. Next, and just looking at the time here, participating in relevant communities, so groups. Where to find groups? Why is it important? For network expansion, skill enhancements, increased visibility and credibility, and personal brand development. Basically, you're going out of your little corner of LinkedIn and you're exploring the communities out there and seeing if there are others there that have grouped, little tribes where you can learn from each other and improve and grow your network. And of course, might be some job opportunities there. Where do you find these groups? Well, you might want to use some keywords, search for them in the search bar, or if you click on My Network, you'll have a listing here of groups, and then you can click on that and then explore from there. And at the bottom of that page, there's a search groups, which you'll be able to look for. Social selling. I know that we've only got a couple of minutes here, but I do want to go through that and then analytics. So what is social selling? Social selling is the process of using social media platforms to directly connect with prospects, build relationships, and engage with potential customers. Basically, it's everything that you're doing on LinkedIn leads to social selling. You may not be selling a product, but you may be, and most likely are, and always are, selling yourself as a professional, yourself as a person. So what are the key components? Building a strong personal brand, content sharing, engagement, networking, listening, and social media monitoring. So when you do all these 5 things, you're actually doing social selling. So you might be saying, I'm not doing social selling. I don't know what social selling is. Well, if you've built a professional brand and you've got some good content and you're engaging with your audience and you're networking and you're listening and, monitoring what people are saying about this topic and that topic and your post and whatnot, well, you're doing social selling. And then that will, for some of you, lead to lead generation. So for those of you who are in business development, who are in sales, of course, it's a given that you should invest in your presence on LinkedIn and practicing social selling for the lead generation ability that it has. And maybe the leads here is your next role at your next your next firm. That's something that is also a benefit to you, even if you are not in a quote unquote sales role. Social selling is about building meaningful relationships. If you go back to my bio, all of this is sort of at the core of what I believe the value of social networks. Unfortunately, in the news and the way a lot of people use social networks and social media is from a negative perspective. But I think there's an opportunity And I know there's an opportunity because I've lived it, and I've established some strong relationships, some good friendships through my activity on LinkedIn and on Twitter and on Facebook, and on the blog that I had some years ago, and that's what I focus on. It's where the magic happens, and I think it's where we need to focus our attention. We're going to get into some analytics before we close this training. So LinkedIn has this feature which is called the social selling index. It's sort of their hook for you to start looking at their sales navigator. So this is specifically interesting for folks who are in sales, actual sales professionals, and highly recommend that you look into that if you have not, especially if you're in a large organization or small organization. But in a large organization, there's the the value of groups and of connections within those groups and whatnot. So it's a fantastic platform. And in order to sort of get you into or whetting your appetite, it offers this social selling index. So take it with a bit of grain of salt in that context, but it is still, I think, a useful indicator. So as you can see here at the very top, it says Sales Navigator. So what this does is that it measures your effectiveness at um, leveraging LinkedIn according to four main components. So establishing your professional brand, finding the right people, engaging with insights. So remember, value, and building relationships. Are you connecting with the right people and whatnot? So there's a link here to a page which you'll click on the link and it'll show you this. So it's showing me that within my industry, I'm in the top 1%. Within my network, I'm in the top 8. And then it shows the average score for the industry I'm in and the my network per se. I have just to come back here. I have a lot of engineers and a lot of um, folks that are not necessarily leveraging the platform as they should. I'm connected to a lot of them, which is why that's the 44 score. If you're in an industry like the tech industry or startups and whatnot, that score within your network, if you're networked with a lot of these types of individuals, then that score should be much higher. Tracking engagement on LinkedIn. So charts and engagement rates, we're going to take a look at that. So here's the great thing about turning on your creator mode. It's going to give you lots of stats going back to a year on impressions and the people that come and visit your content, but you need to turn on the creator mode. So in your profile at the very top, there was a section that said creator mode. Turn that on, and you'll be able to see all this great content or insights. So in terms of your posts, it allows you to measure the analytics of your the content performance of your posts based on impressions and based on engagements as well. So the number of reactions, if I'm not mistaken, and it's for 7, 14, 28, 90 days and a year. So you can go back really very far. So here's the last 28 days as of last night. Here's the last 365 days as of last night. And disregard the up from 600, 580% plus, because actually the year before that, it was higher than this figure. So I think there's a bit of issues with that portion of the analytics on LinkedIn. But nevertheless, over the last year, it tells me, these are the top 3 posts. It tells me here's a timeline of your activity and the number of impressions that you got. So I can easily see that, here's where I took some vacation in July. You can see that right here because very low. I didn't post at all. And here's the Christmas break. So, I give you some of that insight. And, in November, here's when I posted my post about me leaving WSP. And on your content as well and your audience as well. So in terms of new followers, in terms of who those people are, their job titles, their location, the industries, the company names, the company size, you're able to see, and the roles that they have, you're able to see all that information. So if you're trying to get to project managers, but you're getting everybody else but project managers, well, your content is not resonating with project managers. But if you're trying to, get to folks in communications, and it's always these roles that come at the top, then you know that you're hitting your mark by posting content that's relevant to that audience. That's how you can use those statistics. And it is with that, and with that in mind, that we end the training today. And how I'm not so late. 4 minutes over.
No, that's totally fine, David. Thank you very much for that. So we don't have many questions. The question that I have, you talked about writing articles, and I know that sometimes it could be a bit daunting to write some of them. And would you have some tips and tricks to write them, to prepare them, and to be comfortable just posting them on LinkedIn? What's your take on that?
So I think that the best way of doing that is by you yourself first consuming that content. So when you start curating articles that were published on official sites, when you start also curating articles that you've read on LinkedIn, articles that were written by some of your colleagues that might be more proficient and active and comfortable in publishing articles on LinkedIn, over time, you will see things, you will see patterns, you will see things that you would have liked to maybe provide an answer, you weren't in agreement, or you agreed and wanted to add another point, and that would have made a long comment. Well, take that long comment, take the idea that was mentioned in the article, and then use that to write your own article. And it doesn't have to be, maybe the length of your article could have fit in a post, but because you want to have some hyperlinks in your post, and you can't have hyperlinks in a post, you can only have one embedded URL. Well, come over to articles, write your text, with titles of the art, the referenced um, articles from elsewhere, and you can hyperlink those. In an article, you can tag people. So I would say start with some of the ideas that you're encountering, some of the comments that you've made where you might want to elaborate a little bit further, and use that as the seed for your article. It could also be you want to create, a weekly wrap up or a monthly wrap up. Here are the 10 articles, whether on LinkedIn or from the rest of the web. Here's a Wired article on AI. Here's a MIT Sloan School of Management article on DEI that really resonated with me. Make a list of those in an article format, and publish that, and then end it with see you next month for the next wrap up. That could also be a form of article. It could be you want to put in links to videos or webinars or conferences, or start small, be humble about it, and baby steps at first.
Okay, good. I think, yeah, just like you explained, I think it's one of the ways to improve our presence on LinkedIn. But I think it's really important to consider that it showcases the fields of expertise that we have, and obviously, today we've got ChatGPT that could also help us. But
Mm-hmm.
I would be tempted to say to use ChatGPT maybe to think of questions that we could address as part of an article, but also to maybe have a structure, some sort of a help to get a structure as to how we could build an article, but not necessarily, just like you said, using ChatGPT or those general thing to do the job on our behalf. I think it's not necessarily really productive. Anyway.
Well, I mean, it allows you to produce more, yes, but you lose the authenticity, and it loses the humanity of the article that you're writing yourself. What you could do is, if you're someone with some years of experience, write articles for your younger self. What sort of articles, what sort of tips and advice would you have liked to have been given when you started off in your role in accounting or in project management? things that stressed you then that you looking back say are meaningless or shouldn't worry about them. Write those articles, because there are those younger versions of yourselves that are starting right now, and if they come across your article and it resonates with them, that's also a way of doing it. Or you could use, speaking of, and that's the last thing I say, but speaking of ChatGPT, and we could do a whole training on that or multiple trainings on that. You could say to ChatGPT, listen, I like these types of articles, I like these types of posts, I'm thinking of maybe writing my first article. What would you suggest I do? How would I approach it? And it's going to give you some ideas and whatnot, or help you in your journey to becoming more at ease with sharing your voice and your thoughts to an audience of 1 billion plus, no less.
Yep, yep, yep. So we don't have any more questions. I would like just to bring just a comment that we had, and yes, this one, I think it summarizes the I mean the thing that you did today. So you shared your knowledge with your audience. It's with the audience, and we really appreciate that. I would like to invite people to continue asking questions if they have. We are going to follow up. So David and myself to your questions. Feel free to do so. It's I think it's really important, not only for yourself today, but also for yourself in the future. It helps you to showcase who you are. Thank you very much, David, for that.
Thank you, Thomas.
Thank you. So this concludes our session today, our Friday Lab. We are a little bit behind, but it was a very insightful session. Thank you very much, David, for that. I would like to invite you to connect with David on LinkedIn, on this social media. You will see his content, and you will see how you can just build your presence just like he does. I will give you a rendezvous for a next session. I don't know yet which Friday it's going to be. Maybe next week or the week after. I'm still finalizing the planification and the topic about the next Friday Lab. But keep in mind that the Friday Lab are now regular events that are going to happen on YouTube. And the objective of those Friday Labs will be to bring you new knowledge or new way of thinking to help you building your skills and master your life. Thank you again. It was very good for this very first Friday Lab, and I'm looking forward to the next one. Thank you very much, guys. See you next.